All right, so we'll get set up here. And do you go by Sarah Kate or just Kate?
Kate is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. This is awesome. I'm excited. Thank you.
Good.
I'll get another selfie to document this.
I know, right?
You're going places.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of the Support is Sexy podcast. This is episode 555, and I am super excited because this episode features an interview with entrepreneur Kate Redding, who is founder of Valencia Private Tours, and it was recorded at a cafe on the streets of Valencia, Spain. Now, this interview is the first of many to come where I am really fulfilling a dream of mine, where I'm interviewing women entrepreneurs around the world face to face while I'm visiting their countries. And for those of you who don't know, I'm traveling with a company called Remote Year, where I'm living in 12 countries over the next 12 months. And in those countries that I visit, I am interviewing women entrepreneurs from those countries to find out what it takes to set up a business there and being a woman entrepreneur there. So I am super excited about it. And Kate is the first interview that I did while in Valencia, Spain. And what's odd is I'm bringing this to you from Cape Town, South Africa, if you're listening to this in real time. Now, on this episode, Kate and I talk about what originally brought her to Valencia from her hometown of Maine, what her journey was like to get there, and what it means to be an entrepreneur in Spain. Now, as I mentioned, we're on the street at a beautiful cafe in Valencia, so you're really going to feel like you're sitting at the table with us. In other words, embrace the background noise. All right, so I know you're going to enjoy this conversation with Kate. Without further ado, Kate Redding.
So Kate, tell us, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
That is a good question. And firstly, congratulations to your podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I was listening to a little bit on the way over, and I heard this question, so I was ready for it. And I actually thought about the first time I tried to sell apples out in front of my house. I grew up in a big New England farmhouse in the middle of the nowhere, and I tried to sell apples, a whole bag, for $1, and I didn't sell anybody. I've always wanted to start things. I don't know if it's just in my destiny, but I've always been a starter. You know, we had no girls soccer team in high school, which is weird in the 90s, but we started with my best friend. We started it. We started Amnesty International School, and since a very young age, I feel like I've just
always
been in that role
start something.
To start things that aren't there yet.
So where did you grow up? You said New England, so that's in the States. We're in Valencia now at a beautiful cafe, sitting outside, so everyone will hear a little bit of the background.
Of course, yes. So I was born in Maine originally, but as the age of 5, my parents brought me out traveling a lot, and I grew up partly in the Dominican Republic. So I went down to school in the DR, went to Dominican school when I was down there, and learned Spanish from a young age. So I grew up around an expat community with Germans and Italians and other Europeans, and I just fell in love with the idea of living in Europe. I traveled a bunch and studied abroad in college. I went to Bates, and 5 days later, I came to live in Spain to teach English for just a few months. Where I thought I would be studying to be a lawyer, but it's a long story. But in general, I happened upon this beautiful city, Valencia. Madrid was just too big for me, and I took a whim. I pointed on a map, and it was a town that I had never heard of before called Sagunto, which I now incorporate into my tours because it's the largest Roman fort on the entire Iberian Peninsula. It's where the Second Punic War started. So fell in love with the history, started falling in love with that part of it, and then I fell in love with Valencia. About a year later, I fell in love with a man instead.
Right. That'll do
He's from Valencia, and I've been here ever since. So nearly 20 years. My whole adult life has been here.
Oh, my goodness. So now, what initially brought you to the Dominican Republic? Was that a family move?
That's a good question. My parents were kind of intellectual hippies, and they're both psychologists. Yeah, both. If you
that
wonder,
must have been,
wonder why I live on another continent.
Analyzed, right, exactly.
We have a good relationship today. My mother was actually pretty entrepreneurial herself. She was a psychologist. She was a lecturer at the university. My dad was a doctor of psychology at the university, but she had her own practice, and she started something called Woman's Quest. And it was really in the 80s. So their logo was women wearing a headband, slaying a dragon. And I'd go down there with this group of women. Now, her clients said pretty rough story, sexual abuse, incest, and she would bring them down to do complete freedom therapy sessions, drumming, drum circles, howling at the moon, and making plasters of their breasts and things that I thought were incredibly fun to grow up with when you're young, until you turn 13 and you're mortified. But
do you find that you have come full circle now and appreciated it in a way that you didn't before when you were 13? It's
absolutely.
like younger and then older.
I always knew that I was okay to live out of the mold, for sure. And in the Dominican, so after school, she'd be driving in the van, telling people about the country she's seeing, and I would be helping them bargain and helping them order in restaurants and telling them. So I feel like it's a real natural job for me.
Right.
I've been thinking about this lately, and it feels like I went to an excellent school. Thank goodness for my parents. I was lucky enough that they could help me go to this excellent school. But everything I have today, it comes pretty naturally to me.
Because of what you did during your childhood and what you were exposed to.
Anything I actually do. I mean, school gave me, a good brain to to solve puzzles and analyze things.
Right.
But I feel like it's very natural. Like I was doing this since I was 9. I was always kind of a ham and did theater, and I was okay with public presentation and public speaking and talking in front of big groups of people. So it serves me well now.
So tell us about what you're doing now with your company, Valencia Tours, and how you started it and just how it came. We know why you love Valencia now.
Thank you.
But what made you think or decide that, I want to show other people how much I love it?
It definitely happened gradually. I started in tourism. I was combining it with English teaching with an educational tour company. And I definitely feel like, that's kind of an easy one for a lot of women to go to is teaching. Whereas now that I'm out of teaching, I realize that teachers have so many skills that they could be using elsewhere. But I especially feel like for women, we can get stuck in teaching because so many women who are more talented could do other things. But it's just, so for me, it worked out well because I was still teaching and I started educational tours, 40 American high school students. We do 12 cities in 10 days. And I toured all over Spain and France, Portugal.
Was that part of a program that was
part of a program. It's an American company called ACIS. It's the biggest educational tour company in the U.S. And so that's I really and I love teenagers. That's my favorite group, and that's why I started falling in love with visiting Spain and really taking traveling that came naturally to me. And who knew that I was just doing research for my future career and my future business is just backpacking around India and Europe, and I traveled a lot before this. So that was really getting me ready to do what I do now. When we moved back, we lived in Barcelona for 5 years. We moved back to Valencia. And at that time, it was a pretty critical time. We're just at the right place at the right time. Things were changing. 2007 was a pivotal year in Valencia. 3 big things happened that changed. Valencia, the cruise ship port was made with the America's Cup, and that started bringing big cruise ships in. And so with cruise ships, people hadn't started to know me for the years. Hey, can you do a private tour here? Hey, can you do a private tour there? And I realized that there was something that wasn't being done yet. Private tours. Everybody had done touring, lots of tours.
Right, like get on a bus and ride around and that kind of thing.
Exactly, but I could see that there was a real niche for, as these baby boomers from America are getting older, retired, they have the money, they have the means, they're still healthy enough to travel. I realized there's a real niche for catering to these people because a lot of these people don't want to go on the big tour and fall around because they might not be able to, or they might be very able and they're held back by other people who are too busy getting lost or getting on the bus or getting off the bus.
Right. So they want something more customized. You started seeing that.
Exactly. So I realized that this was something, and there was really at this time about 8 years ago, again maybe 10 years ago, it just barely started, and on the internet there was nothing in Spain. There was one Dutch guy, really bad website. He's not even on there anymore. And then there was something called Tours by Locals. Tours by Locals was run out of Vancouver, and it was the only one. It's really one of the biggest ones. And I started through them offering services, but then I realized, hey, this is my local business. Right. I can do this myself.
You're actually here. They're out of Vancouver, right? So
I started ValenciaPrivateTours.com, and besides that one other guy, there was no competition on the internet. I was, besides the first real private tour company that was really being offered.
And it sounds like the first woman-owned one.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the first. And definitely think in Spain you see that more, and I think in America we come from several generations of women already working. Whereas people have to remember in Spain there was a dictatorship until the end of 1975. So most women, my mother-in-law's age, most women didn't work yet. So really in Spain, I'm of the first generation of women generally working outside of the household. And so you don't see, it's not so prevalent yet. It's really just the first phase. So my accountant, she had a party for her clients, and I looked around and realized, and I asked her, I was like, how many of these are just wives that are here with their husband? How many are actually other female business owner? And she, out of like 60 clients, 3 were me and 2 other women who were lawyers.
Wow.
And that was, so it really was, that was kind of the first eye-opening of, hey, this is something, it is a little bit special for women here in Spain, even more so than in our own country where we see it's a little bit more common.
So tell us about that then. What is it like being a woman entrepreneur here in Spain, especially since it's considerably new, not brand new, but what has it been like, or what has your experience been like as a woman entrepreneur here?
That's a good question. I have to say, I don't feel like I've had many roadblocks, and I think that particularly doesn't have to do with male or female. It has to do with there's some things that are definitely wrong with America, but there's some things we do good in America too. And that is, we're really born with an entrepreneurial spirit. I don't think any other nation, I've lived in a lot of other countries, I don't think any other nationality has this innate, I can figure out how to do this myself kind of spirit. And I think in Europe, I think, it has to do with they're comfortable. They say
it's too in Spain, the whole thing is like mañana, right? Everything is kind of more laid back and relaxed. And
it's definitely, that's a double-edged sword, right? When you're so comfortable, you have great health care, you're living well, it's kind of like, well, why would I bother, reinventing a wheel when I'm pretty comfortable? Whereas in America, I don't think it's right with, how our public systems work in America. But on the other hand, that does instigate change for people who can't take that anymore. I am very uncomfortable. I can't have health. I got to do something about this. And they start things. So I think, a lot of people in Spain are just like, well, why bother? I'm so well, I would like to do it, but bureaucracy is such a big thing here that I think they put roadblocks up in their head about it more.
So how do you, like I was just going to ask that, you mentioned that it's up in their heads, but how do you, as a person who does come from that sort of entrepreneurial background, make your way in a place that's probably maybe not used to seeing women like yourself or those other 2 women out of 60 who were...
I think a part of it is just learning how to get through that bureaucracy that you have to do. And I think for so many people, even, who local, native Spaniards, just like, it's just too complicated. Right. Whereas that's something that if I pushed through it, I have to get, an official license, which is a real rigmarole. It sounds easy, but you have to, get your own university degree from your own country, homologado, which means you have to get transferred into here, and then you have to get 1,000 papers. It took about a year, a bureaucratic process of a year. And then you have to take exams. They're a crazy country about exams. So basically, you have to know everything from prehistory until last year, till yesterday,
and
in all of Spain.
And that's not just for people who want to do tours. This is just in general.
That's just in general, right? I also say, with Valencia Private Tours, I'm my own chauffeur as well. I drive and I guide, which is very weird for women here because some women don't even drive here, period. Right. And in general, I will say I've had a couple of clients from other countries who are not from the West who are surprised that I was driving. Right. Like, oh, you're driving as well? And it's nice. Just yesterday, I got a compliment from the man. Oh, you're a really good driver. It's silly like that, but it's validating because we've heard this our whole life that women are bad drivers. And so I have a couple of touring cars that I take around by myself, and I think other people, even men in this country, are... what's the license for that? I was like, you don't need a license for that. My insurance covers it. There's no, but they get really scared about, you need the right certificates, you need the right papers, and they get really bogged down by that. So I think for me, not being from here, I might be doing something wrong, but I believe I've got all my papers in order. I've got a gestora, an account. I've got everything in order, so it's doing fine. It's okay.
And how long have you had the business now?
ValenciaPrivateTours.com has been, I think, online now since 2013 or 2012, so 5 or 6 years. It was first I did my website by myself. It was, and
but still, you got to start somewhere, right?
at least I got a good domain name, and I started, and then I have a couple of web people that are doing things for me. One is a young woman from the U.S. who she doesn't really speak Spanish yet, but I know she's got what I need.
Right.
She's got that. I'm going to think out of the box. I know what you need. I'm going to get it done. She's brilliant on computers, and I'd like to have it in. If more employees, I take on a full woman staff if that's possible.
So interesting what you said. So I've heard someone say to me recently that you hire for the Kate Erickson, this woman I interviewed, you hire for the personality of a person or how you think they'll fit into your company as opposed to just the skill, which is something you just said. You're like, she doesn't have this and that, but I just know that she's going to be a good fit. So for everyone listening to catch that.
Absolutely. And I love that I know that she said sometimes that she can do some things that she doesn't quite know, but she has the confidence that, yes, I can.
I'm going to figure that out.
She might get a little bit late, but I can sometimes she's like, yeah, I can do that. I can tell that she can do it, but she's not quite sure how she's going to do it yet.
Right, she's
but
I figure it out.
I absolutely get that because I never would have started in this business. It's impossible to know all the customized tours people want.
Right.
So when people call and say, hey, they do weird things sometimes. Hey, in one of those private chapels, Louis from Toulouse, he's my great uncle. Can we get in there to see it? And can you find out about him? Well, sure. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
We find out about it when people are, I really want to know about the equestrian culture in Spain. Sure, I can do that for you. So that's really, I think, important to have that confidence that I can figure it out. I know how to research. I know how to get things done.
That's right. So I know we only have a few minutes left. Thank you so much, everyone. I had to rush over and get to Kate, but I'm so happy she's taking the time. So for the tours, how exactly does it work? So anyone interested, of course, can go to valenciaprivatetours.com.
Yep.
And then do they tell you sort of what they have in mind, or do you have packages as well that you can tell people who don't know what they want to do?
I have about 12 different tour categories, and most people do find me on Google because I've got a pretty good SEO. I'm always up on the first page.
Excellent.
And 12 different tour categories with ideas around in Valencia City and excursions to take outside of Valencia City. There is a pre-booking form they can fill out and tell me about them, or they can just write to my email directly or the contact, and either choose a tour that I generally do, but it's always customized because when you're doing tours for only 2 to 6 people, you can do whatever these people want.
Right.
So I know that part of the success rate that I have, I think on TripAdvisor, I'm the #1 private tour company in Valencia.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great.
And I think part of that success is that I'm completely bilingual and bicultural because I tell them things that they're interested in, but no other European guide would even think to talk about the school cafeteria lunches here, how they're different from U.S. school cafeteria lunches. And so I think, knowing both cultures so well, it gives me, a foot up. Definitely. That's been, I think, good. Very soon, we also have privatespaintours.com, where I've been working this for several years. It's just not up and running. The website's going to be up and running within the next couple of months for sure.
Okay, excellent. But people who want to find out more about you and the company, valenciaprivatetours.com.
Yep, they can find all they want out about me there and contact me for anything they need in Spain and our neighbors.
Excellent. So before you go, what would you say if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Oh my goodness, I might have to think about that one. That is a really good question. I'd have to say, honestly, the first, because is my husband. And that's just the truth. I'd like to be more of a feminist and say
no, it's beautiful. A lot of people say that.
The truth is that we have 3 children. I wouldn't, if he weren't, he's not a stereotypical Spanish man. He does all the cooking in the house. I do zero cooking. I'm horrible at it as well. And that he supports me so that I can do this. And we also get a lot of time with our kids as well, because that's the benefit of, I also listened to a podcast of yours of motherhood, and Doreen, who was talking about balancing motherhood and her job. And I think that's the best way when you are a mother, is if you can work for yourself, you can be flexible with that time. So I honestly say My husband's very good, and my mother and father-in-law are excellent. And of course, my parents for giving me the values that I had in the past, but the real hands-on support of right now where our life is, they are big helpers with my kids. And what you realize when you're away as a mom is that whenever mom's there, it's mom first. And it gives them the opportunity to count on dad for things, to count on yaya and yayo for things. And they build stronger relationships. And I probably think all mothers who work have a little bit of guilt that we rationally know we shouldn't have.
Right.
But we have this innate thing inside that we always kind of second guess ourselves for working.
I should be doing that.
And so I've really come to terms with that when, luckily, if you have a good partner and he's got a great family to help out, that it really makes you realize that I'm not there. They have excellent relationships that they might not otherwise have.
Right.
And I also think for any other mothers or people who might be thinking about being mothers, working is incredibly compatible because we also have to think we're not just giving our kids what they need now as kids. We need to show them that adulthood looks awesome. That adulthood, you can love your job. You can be in, what Benjamin Franklin said, I think, if you find something you love to do, you never have to work a day again in your life. And I think that's important also to show our kids that, it's not just, we're so tired, we got it. Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's also
especially
good value.
as a mom, too. Of course, dads, too, but especially as a mom, showing your kids that joy or happiness with your work and you going out and seeing the family support you as you do these things is just great for your kids. How old are your kids?
Absolutely. I have a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old.
Oh, my goodness. God bless your support system.
Yes, amazing. Absolutely. Thank you.
Excellent. Kate, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. I'm so happy we're connected. I can't wait I've already talked about moving to Valencia, so everybody already knows I'm super excited about the city. I just absolutely love it. So I can't wait to come back and do something more with you again.
Well, you let me know when you come back. I'll help you out with whatever you need.
Excellent. Kate, thank you.
Thank you, Elayne, and congratulations for the great podcast.
Thank you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kate from Valencia, Spain. To find out more about her, to get in touch with her, to book a tour when you visit Valencia, just go to supportissexy.com, go to that search icon at the top, and just type in Kate, Kate. Her show notes page will pop up with links, resources, ways to get in touch with her, and again, ways to find out more about Valencia Private Tours. Supportissexy.com and just search Kate. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you going on this journey with me, whether this is your first episode or episode 555 for you. As I always say, it would not be the same without you. All right, now until we chat again, always remember, support is sexy, and having it all doesn't mean doing it all alone. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.